All right. So do you have any big plans for the holiday?
No, not really. So it's just kind of the way the schedule worked out this year with the end of the school year and then teaching summer school. I basically kind of end up with like a 4 day weekend, which is nice. So uh, we're recording on Wednesday this week.
Yep.
Thursday, I've got graduation events all evening to be at. Friday, I'm off. And then Monday, I'm off. But Tuesday, I start summer school.
Okay.
And then after summer school, I've got like staff meetings basically at the school I actually teach at during the school year for like 3 days. So next week is kind of rough before things settle into kind of their more normal summer flow for me. Um, but yeah, no, this weekend is going to be a lot of kind of taking it easy. Uh,
Deal.
yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
no, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah. We're taking a
I'm
trip up to Pine somewhere like some would stay at a friend's cabin. And that's my goal too, is
nice.
I'm just gonna like sit.
Yeah. And there's something nice about this is like the first time in a while I can remember where I'm coming up to a nice long break of school. I mean, kind of like summer school
Hmm.
only sort of counts because it's like half days. Um, but like coming up to one of these long breaks and my body having not decided, okay, cool, you're relaxing now. We can totally be sick and laid out for like 3 days. All this stuff that we've been fighting off for the last couple months. Now we've got time. Cool. We're gonna let it all just hit.
Oh, it's funny because it's true, man.
Oh my
I
gosh, man!
totally
Like
get what you're saying.
the first week of summer vacation, the like first 3 days of winter break every year, my body is just like, oh, cool, cool, cool. We can relax. Beautiful. Bam, you're
It's like
laid out.
the germs are just waiting. Okay, now get him.
No, I feel like it's one of those scenes in like a war movie where my white blood cells are like
They're
holding the line and there's
waiting for
someone
the
behind
whites of
them
your
just yelling,
eyes.
hold,
Oh.
hold. And then they just like parting of the seas. And it's like, oh my gosh, man. Like,
Oh, that's fantastic. All
but
right. Okay.
today, at the risk of jinxing it,
Okay.
I feel legit good.
Yeah. Start the vitamin C, get ahead of it, right? There you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Just dumping in the vitamin C and all that
That's
kind of stuff.
freaking funny. All right, let's hit an intro and jump into it, huh? Welcome to the podcast, Blue Collar Scholars. Not long ago, a group of brilliant minds met together at a pub to discuss their unfinished works. They recognized the value of coming together around delicious beverages and having meaningful conversations. That group was known as the Inklings. The Inkle Do podcast here, we're working to be the second iteration of that group. So, pour yourself a craft beverage, pull up a chair, and join the conversation. Okay, so have you had anything to drink? I know we're recording on like a weird schedule here because we got the holiday, so we're pre-recording, and so it's only been
2
2
days.
days, so, and weeknights, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
But
you! I'm so
be-
jealous.
because I am done with school now,
And a good
uh,
podcaster.
yeah, I've got my nice, super dark, like pitch black midnight
Looks so
beer going right
good.
now. It is a Russian Imperial Stout called Old
Mm.
Rasputin. Not normally a summer beer for me.
Okay, yeah. I've had that one.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I've had it before, definitely. I might have even mentioned it on a podcast before, although
Hmm.
probably during one of our winter months because that's normally when I go for it. But I was having a hard time filling out the sixth spot in my build your own six pack. And I
Hmm.
saw it and I was like, you know what? I haven't had in a long time. Old Rasputin. Let's go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Um, and I like it a lot because it is very much on that toasted, malty, uh, heavy notes up front. And it does have like a bitterness on the back end.
It does.
But I feel like to me, it hits more, and I know this doesn't sound like a compliment, but like the bitter on the back end hits to me more like almost a burnt coffee thing, just because there's
Okay,
so much coffee and
sure,
kind of chocolate up
sure.
at the front that the bitter hits me a lot different than like the resinous hoppy bitterness, even though that's definitely what this is from. But the way the
I
balance plays out instead, it's like, oh, this is I had one of those fancy flavored coffee drinks going, and down at the end here, the flavoring was all gone. So I just
Mm-hmm.
got the espresso just straight down my throat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it a lot. It's 9%. So again, it's an
Ooh, is it really?
imperial,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That makes sense. Makes
because it's an
sense.
imperial stout. And so
Yep.
but yeah, no, it's a really good solid beer out of the northern part of California.
Yeah.
Um
I think I would need to, like, I had it, and that was the thing with it. It was just so, the bitterness just caught me so much because like it just really packs a bit of a wallop, especially when
oh
you're
yeah.
when you're drinking something dark and smooth, and then it's just like it starts off dark and smooth, and then it's, yeah, in the back you're like, holy crap. But I think like if you were drinking or eating, so not drinking, if you're eating something maybe fatty or gravy, like if you were having like a cheesecake or maybe
Sure.
like a sausage, like if you were having something that really needed some help cleansing, I think
Yeah.
that could balance it out. But yeah, just by itself there, I was just like, man, that's a little bitter for me.
Honestly, like the first thing that came to my mind as I was drinking it is like, you know what? A small bowl of vanilla ice cream would be really good right now.
Yeah, yeah, I would.
Like,
That's yeah, or like just a straight plain New York cheesecake type of thing.
yeah,
Like
absolutely. That would
no
work.
flavors, just like a fatty cheese, like
Exactly. Just something that's like, I've got like a note to counter it, like either the just
hmm
straight up sweet from the vanilla ice cream,
hmm
or like you said, that kind of like fatty, kind of creamy thing going
yeah.
on with the cheesecake. Yeah, now I'm aware that I only did this half right by having this beer as we're recording tonight. I let myself down, and I feel like I've let the team down. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um I can only promise I'm gonna bounce back better, Next pod's our pod, man. We're coming back strong.
There you
We will not
go.
be defeated.
Oh crap. That's freaking funny to me. I don't know why, but it is. That stuff just makes me laugh. Oh,
Because we're bitter Arizona sports fans.
that's
And so we're
about
so
right.
used to the end of the season press conference that,
Inspirational.
like,
Yep.
yeah, we got it.
Oh, but speaking of coming back better, that's one of the things that we're kind of working on right now. So we are kind of this summer. So we started talking a little bit ago about how to get our pop up back up. And we met a couple of podcasts ago. We talked about it, or
Yeah.
mentioned it, and that we were working on some things. And I kind of wanted to talk through one of my experiences as part of this, which is, like when we did the idea for the pop up, I presented it to my mentor. I was like, "Hey, what do you think of this idea?" And he's like, "It seems to lack clarity." I was like, "Really?" Because it makes total sense to me. And I left my meeting with my mentor just like really frustrated and disappointed. And I was like, "This seemed like," because when you and I were talking, man, I was like, everything, we were both like, "Yes, this seems absolutely right." But then when I presented it to him, he's like, "It doesn't seem to make sense." And when I look back at it, I was like, the reason is because like we don't have a clear mission, vision, values. Like we don't have anything written down. Like you and I know who we are, what we're about. But if somebody asks us, "Hey, what are you about?" We'd be like,
It's going
let
to be a
me,
30-minute
yeah,
conversation.
let me give you
Like,
my dissertation here."
the only way we can call it an elevator pitch is if we're allowed to like smash that
Yeah,
emergency
it's like
stop button
Elf
on
where
the
you're like
elevator
hitting
and
all
they're
of the
stuck now. Like,
all the
yeah,
buttons
sorry,
at
we're going to be here for like 3 hours waiting for the rescue team to come through. But good news.
I have the time to explain it now. Yeah, so put in some extra, and I actually, because we liked the pop-up idea so much, I kind of used that and kind of backed into our reconciling into our vision, mission, and stuff like that, and put it together in this little thing and sent it over to you, right? Said, "Hey,
Mhm.
pray about it, let's discern on it. Like, I don't want to do this the wrong way." And I am the type of person which you have had to deal with, we have had to deal with, because it frustrates me as much as it frustrates anybody else, is
More.
like,
Let's be honest. Frustrates you more than it frustrates
it
anybody else.
probably does. But like, yeah, I'm an insufferable busybody. And so like I want to do, like,
Yeah.
and so sitting back and discerning is not an easy thing for me. And so like as I've been working with stewardship this year, right? Like that's one of the big things is being in God's will, not in my own type of a thing. And so, obviously was feeling good about this, sent it off. What I was really hoping for was like a hey, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go. Not a yeah, you're right. I will pray and discern on this. you know, that's what I wanted you to do, but it's not what I wanted to hear.
Right. No. I get that.
And so like it was I've been sitting here and rolling with it and just been like clawing at the walls waiting for a response. And I'm just like, holy crap, like I am a mess over here. And it's for good reason, right? Because I wasn't ready. Like if you had just said go, I would have just gone and done some more busybody work and it wouldn't have necessarily been, it would have been there to make me feel good about doing something rather than, like I'm a Martha, right? Like I got to busy around the house and clean up and then complain why she's not doing something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it was good in that it forced me to stop and wait. And revelations came from that. Like I get caught up in the social media thing so much, right? Like so many people tell you that social media is what business is. And yeah, there is a way to do business in social media, but like I don't know that we're called to be social media influencers.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I would go like that one step farther and say, I do not feel we are called to be social media influencers.
yeah. But it's that thing that I wrestle with because everybody tells me that that's what I'm supposed to be doing, And so like, but what it does is it scratches my busybody itch, right? Like I can do things and do stuff, even though it doesn't do anything or achieve anything for us in like deep work. It really scratches my busybody itch and I can get caught on that hamster wheel thinking that that's the work and not really what God wants us to be doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's that idea of, like you said, being like really intentional with what you're doing on it. Because when I say we're not called to be influencers, like, is there a part of me that would really love to be like, yeah, no. Through my discernment, I have realized God is not calling me to be on social media, so I'm going to wash my hands of all of this madness and not have to deal with it.
Oh man,
I would love to be able to do that, but I would be putting words in God's mouth.
Yeah.
Like he has not told me that.
Yeah.
But like, it's that idea of what are we posting for? Like what is the reason behind it? How are we going to measure success with it? Because even if we have a really clear idea of what we want to do, that doesn't mean we're actually doing it. And so there still needs to be that kind of evaluative piece where we can look at it and be like, okay, so we said that what we wanted our social media interactions to do is like these two things, maybe three if we're feeling really aggressive. We want these things to happen. And here's how we're going to know if that's happening. But like the difference being when I say I believe very strongly we're not called to be influencers. What I mean by that is that what we shouldn't be using to measure it is just straight up how many accounts do we have following us?
Right. Yeah.
Like selling ad space on the Inkledoo Insta. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to it. Sponsors, if you're listening and want to throw a few bucks our way, I'm not going to fight you on it.
Right.
But again, like that idea of us showing up in like branded gear and just like constantly making a key point of like showing the logo on the stuff we're wearing and things like that.
Yeah.
That would be counter to like
who we are.
Yeah. It would be impossible for us to do it authentically.
Right. Yeah.
And whatever God is calling us to, I know he's calling us.
Yeah.
Which means that when we find ourselves doing something that's not authentic, then we know, okay, yeah, we've gotten our means and our ends confused on this one.
Right.
And so to that extent, that's where like this time and this reflection is important, but it's also, again, and this is why I was saying, like, you get more frustrated with you about this than definitely I do. I guess I can't actually speak for everyone who interacts with you and say that you're more annoyed with yourself than everyone else is. But like for me, it's one of those things. I really appreciate it that you are like, especially because you've got the awareness where you are like keeping yourself kind of on the leash and not like just fully letting yourself go, no, we're gonna do a million things right now. Like that's not where you're at. And
Not
so
anymore,
like,
anyway.
well, that's yeah. Look, growth, growth is growth, baby. We've been you, and you have you like legitimately. I say this not actually with any joking or ironic tone to it, but you recognized something about yourself, set out to work on it, and have made tremendous
Yeah.
progress with that, which is awesome to like be a like front row seat observer of watching it happen.
I think we
But
had a year
because
with like 3 pages of goals or something like that I was
we
working on.
did do that, we did do that, but like for me, I am my natural tendency is not to be a busybody. My natural
Mhm.
tendency is to come up with a good idea and allow it to just sort of remain an idea.
Mm,
Like, oh, yeah, no, it'd be awesome. I hope someone does that with a very clear, like, asterisk next to that someone that makes it very clear, not me, like, as part of
right.
it.
Right.
And so, like, patience is key, but patience isn't being idle, it's
Hmm.
waiting, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that idea of, I think a big part of what you bring is that you have a real gift for like keeping the eye on the horizon, looking for when is that opportunity coming. And yeah, if it doesn't come super quickly, sometimes you want to kind of like, I'll bet we, this looks kind of like an opportunity. I'll bet we could do this. I'm sure God will get on board. Um, but like you are very aware of that idea of that you were not created to be a passenger in life, that you were created to do something.
Right.
There is a
Right.
way God intends for you to cooperate in his plan, and your eyes are fixed firmly on the horizon looking for that. And so
Hmm.
like that, I don't want this to be a like over the top kind of, yeah, I really suck at being patient. Nah, we
Right.
both really suck at being patient on opposite ends. Like our natural tendencies towards patience is actually neither one of us are super good at it. Your natural tendency is to be much more busy. And I'll be honest, mine is to be sedentary. Like I will fade into the rocks. I will be part of that cliffside watching creation go past. Uh like and so yeah, it is a growth area for both of us of that idea of first recognizing, and I would say this has been like a major focus for us for at least the past few months, very heavily and very intentionally, but
Hmm.
longer than that, that idea of that awareness of our gifts and putting them at service of God,
Mm,
not doing service for God, but like putting ourselves at
right.
service of him.
Right.
Like, here are the things you have given us, Lord. We want to give them back to you. Show us how.
Yes.
The show us how part is where, like, I think that's kind of where we're at now, trying to
Right.
figure that out.
Right.
Like, recognizing what the sign is and me, like, making sure I'm keeping my eyes open because, you know, Jesus made that coming like a thief in the night reference so many times. You
Right.
would think I would know to take it seriously. But I was like, yep, thief in the night, but that's all right. It's tomorrow night, I'm sure,
It's tomorrow
you
night, I'm
know?
sure.
And so, like, that idea of being ready
Right.
being ready to move, that's where I think a lot of this is kind of coming.
Yeah, and also one of the things that I realized too when you were talking about the here are my gifts, how you want me to use them instead of working for God type of all of this thing came together in what I thought in waiting and listening to God is that he would add things and say, go do this. But really, like out of all of the things he said, don't do that and stop doing this. And I was like, are you sure? You know,
Yeah.
like you want me to do less? And it's like sniper mentality, right? Instead of watching the entire horizon, no, you're watching a single point.
Mm.
And you know everything that's
Ooh.
going on in that point.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at too many things and I'm losing too many things. It's like, no, 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 no. Do this and do that. And then these are things that, like vocationally, like your family, your relationships, those are things that always are there are constants, right?
Yeah.
That call will never ever stop. You already know that one. On top of the call, as it pertains to your creativity and Inkle doing all of these things, do this and do that. And it was like, that's it. I'm like, there's no way that you only just want me to do just that. There's no way, right? Like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
would you shed stuff out? Like it doesn't make any sense. I'm still kind of like struggling with accepting it that he was pulling things off. And that's where like the whole idea of the influencer thing is like that is not that's not one of the things that he told me. He didn't tell me to invest a bunch of effort and like I still creatively will screw around on some videos
Sure.
on Instagram and stuff, but that's just because I have nothing better to do when I'm watching my girls' jujitsu class, and so I'm
Yeah.
screwing around, but it's not like actually taking my energy and it's just put your energy in these two spots and that's it. And I'm still reeling that when I said I want to be a part of your will, he said do less instead of do more.
Well, and I think for me, one of the things that I've kind of noticed, I would say more than realized, because like as you were talking, I feel like it was starting to cross over into like an actual realization where like I'm becoming really aware of something. But one of the things that I've always kind of noticed and just sort of been in the background of my thoughts is that like I think a lot of that kind of stems from the fact that God and we look at time very differently. Because we only see this one moment, and we and God are all very aware of the fact that we have a limited amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, when we think about
Oh yeah.
how we're going to make the most of the gifts that God has given us, how we're going to do the best and the most we possibly can, and be the most in line with his plan for things, we're thinking, well, shoot, I don't know how many more moments I've got, so I had better be pouring everything into this one.
Mm-hmm.
And on a certain level, that's true.
Right.
But the difference is God knows how much time we have left, and he knows those things that are coming down the horizon that we haven't seen yet. And so he knows that if we're investing all of our energy, basically the shotgun approach counter to the sniper one, by throwing out everything we have at all times in 100 different directions, we're not going to have any ammo left when this spot comes up where he really wants us to hit this.
Yeah.
And so like to us, we feel like if we're not actively doing something, we're wasting that time and we're missing that opportunity. And God's like, no, I gave you this time to recharge, to prepare, so that when this time coming up that you don't know about yet gets here, you'll be able to really just nail that one and hit it out of the park. And so like there's a very real limit on our ability to ever truly grasp that. Because like being aware of that, cool. Yeah, that will help me on the 1 out of every 3 million times where it should be something that I think of, that I actually do think of it. The other 2,999,999, where like I'm too busy thinking that I know what I'm supposed to be doing, those times I'm not going to think of it and it's not going to help me. Like ultimately, I'm a human being and I can only see things as a human being does. But at least with the advantage of like hindsight, looking back on things where it's like, man, I was so sure that's what it was going to be. Like, oh yeah, no, that's right. That was me thinking that like I knew what God wanted for me, or that I even
Yeah.
knew what it would look like for me to maximize my gifts. I have no idea. Beyond saying
Yeah.
that I haven't done it
True.
yet, other than saying for absolute certain that I have not seen the absolute maximization of the gifts God has given me yet, I can't say a whole heck of a lot else about what that
Mhm.
maximization will look like. So the idea that I'm going to be the one who comes up with the plan and the format for how to do it, it just ain't going to happen.
Mm, that's good. That's, and as you're talking about that, there's a level of trust that you have to display in patience. Like
Mm,
when you're waiting, like you have to trust that what God is telling you now is an investment for this. Like, cause like you said, we're so limited. So you have to roll. That's faith. That's trust. That's, you don't know. And so you can't actually prepare, and you just have to listen and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do that because I assume that that means that's going to set me up for success in the later run. And it's interesting because like the picture that I have in my head through all of this is the Israelites circling is it Mount Sinai,
yeah,
right?
they're wandering in the desert for
Yeah,
40 years on a
where
trip
they're
that definitely should have taken like 9 months.
yeah, they're circling the one mountain over and over again because God's leading them, and they see the path to the promised land, and they're just like, no, we're gonna keep going. All right, that sucks. And they go around again, and oh, there it is. No, we're not gonna turn yet. Okay, that sucks. And you go, and you just kind of keep going around in this circle, seeing the promised land, but never like turning towards it. And that's what it feels like sometimes, right?
Yeah,
But in that time, like that's when, this is me drawing
sure.
additionally on top of this. I understand that this was whatever. But like
Yeah,
God is doing deep work there in that he is killing off generations of Israelites,
yeah,
right? They said, you guys aren't allowed to go. So we're going to circle this mountain until you all die. And then when the kids who haven't screwed up are running the show, then we'll cross over.
yeah.
And that's kind of what I was thinking about in me. I was like, where we just have to trust God as we circle this mountain and just kind of kill off the crap that's in there so that when you cross over, you're ready, you know?
That's exactly it. And like, because like when you were talking about, yeah, no, I know the stuff God was doing with Israel. For me, like a lot of times it really is helpful to like, I look at the people of Israel in the same way that I look at the church in the New Testament.
Mm.
It is the body of Christ. Yes, there are many people, but they are one. The Israelites were one. They were God's people. They were his visible presence on
Mm-hmm.
earth. And so, yeah, like we as individuals go through what they as a people did. And there is a whole lot of, oh, but here's the thing. And God might very well be telling us, like, oh, yeah, no. That is exactly the thing I'm going to have you do.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't ready for this yet. You can, like, and there is a very real part of us, like the Israelites. There's that group who, when God announced, fine, you don't trust me to give you the promised land, this generation doesn't get to go. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
trust me. And then there was this group of people who were like, out of a totally understandable and on some level justifiable desire, they're like, God, you're right. We failed to trust you. We trust you now, though. We will go now. And they were warned, no, God is not with you now. Now, all that stuff you were worried about is going to happen if you go. You are going to get wiped out. No, we will show God that we trust in him.
Hmm.
Not enough to listen to him, but that we trust in him to deliver us the promised land. And so they go charging in, and sure enough, they get wiped out. And like, yeah, there's a very real part of us that wants to do that same thing, where it's like,
That is
we're
my
not even
life.
necessarily wrong. We're not even wrong when we say that is definitely God. I just feel like that's what you've got in mind for me. And he might be sitting there saying, yeah, eventually. I trust you, God. I trust you to bring me victory and bring me this thing that I really, really want. Okay. Do you trust me enough to let me tell you when you get it? Well, now let's not get crazy, God. Let's not get crazy now.
Oh man, I hate it when it's those Bible verses that make me feel seen.
Oh, yeah. No.
You're like, oh, I feel seen, but that's not how I want to be seen.
Oh, no. The moments where I relate to like any of the major characters in the Bible, it's never their glory spots. Like, it's always immediately after. like Peter, on this rock I will build my church. No, I don't really relate to him there. Get behind me, Satan. 3 lines later. Yep. Okay. Okay. I see that.
That seems more
Peter,
appropriate.
getting that step out under the water. Man, that's awesome. I hope someday I'm able to do that. Peter sinking immediately after that. Oh, yeah. I get that. I get that. Peter up on the mountain with like Elijah and Moses there talking to Jesus. And Peter, like it says in the gospel, he knew not what he was saying, but homie had to say something.
Should I build a
Let
tent?
us build tents. Like, I just in my head,
at him and be like,
in my head,
what?
Jesus, Elijah, and Moses stop their conversation to simultaneously facepalm and then just go on with their lives and not acknowledge what he said at all.
But that's the truth of the conversation that we're having, is that like in the presence of God, I need to do something. I can't just sit here.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know you guys live in heaven, but I feel like I should build a tent. So I'm going to build a tent because I don't know what else to do with myself right now.
Yeah. Lord, you're talking about you suffering, but that doesn't make sense. You're really good. Why would you suffer? No, you've got this wrong. Lord,
Nope.
who I trust and who I've declared to be the chosen one of God. No.
If you sit in this tent, I think you'll think differently.
Yeah. No. Look, trust me on this one.
Oh, crap. Man, I love it. I love it when the Bible speaks so true into your life and you can laugh about it.
I was going to say, like,
It's
that's
not
a
as
key.
much fun when you can't laugh about it, because sometimes you can't, but like when it's one of those times when you can, you're just like, oh, I love that God has a sense of humor.
It's one of those things. Like, it's really clear that right now we're at a spot where we are not sinking in the water and we're not hollering out on the mountain at the moment. Because then I know I've had those times as well where I read it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is me. But like, it's very like somber and kind of crestfallen. Like, Lord, you didn't have to call me out like this in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, right now it's one of those things. Like, I just know this is a pattern for me. And so, yeah, no, this is hysterical. Plus, I take a lot of comfort in knowing how it worked out for the people who I'm relating to.
True.
So as long as I continue to relate to them the rest of the way, things will be good.
There you go. That's a good place to end. Like, we're going to keep it there. Well, no, we're not. We're going to go into life lessons. So if you were going to wrap it up into a life lesson, what do you think you would pull together from all this?
I think, and I feel like it's one we've talked about before, but it's been a while. But like, it does for me, it kind of comes back to that idea of the difference between being patient and being idle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to make sure that I am prepared so that when I'm waiting, I'm not wasting time. Because if I'm not prepared, then I need to be doing something to prepare.
Right.
But if I'm like prepared, if I'm doing the things that God is telling me to do in this moment and not worrying about all of the other things that I could possibly do in this moment, then I can wait. And I'm not wasting time at that point. I'm waiting for the opportunity that God is presenting to me and that God is presenting me to.
Yep.
Like, because both of those things are God's creation to be in harmony. The things that I bring to that God has given me to bring to the table and the situation where those gifts will do the most good. God has created both of those with the intention that they are to meet. And even when I royally screw up, I can't completely undermine that, because like God is, the goodness of God is so much beyond the badness of me that like I can't really screw it up. Right. But like I can miss out on my opportunity to like really experience the glory of God in those moments. And so I've got to make sure I'm ready, and then I got to be patient and I got to wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Just in all of that, again, it just brings me back into Mary and Martha too. Cause like Martha being frustrated with Mary, thinking that she's idle, but she wasn't idle. She was at the feet of Christ, like that's not being idle. That's what heaven is, like
she's chosen the better part.
Yeah. So a lot of that is in perspective. And that was a lesson for Martha through, I think, a couple times. I think she gained that lesson. And that's really who I relate to the most. Cause like I said, for my life lesson, it's, busyness isn't effectiveness. And so, like people like me who need to be busy to feel accomplished, who need to always be doing things, like that, it's not always effective, right? Like you can do too many things to where you're not actually accomplishing anything. And so when you do finally sit down and get quiet enough and you stop being a busybody and you sit at the feet of Christ with Mary instead of bustling around, then you see, oh, I didn't need, like Jesus didn't really care that I polished that pot. He wanted me here with him, type of a
Yeah.
thing. It's a silly analogy, but like
No,
it's like stop being busy, be at the feet of Christ, and you'll find that you probably don't have to do as much as you think you have to. But when you focus on the things that God calls you to, you'll be much more effective. Like you can take all that busy energy and put it into one or two things. Well, you'll take those two things a lot farther than if you take a million things, an inch at a time,
oh,
So
definitely.
that's kind of been my life lesson in all of this is just learning to patience and trust and all of these things. Just it's a complex combination of just sitting at the feet of Christ and listening a little bit more.
Yeah. Go when he sends us as opposed to when we wish he would.
Yeah, truth. That's it. That is it. Summed up
Mm.
fairly well.
Love it.
And when he does send you, you're going to need some coffee for your trip. So we would like to provide
Yes.
that coffee. Jump on that website, support these meaningful conversations by ordering a couple bags of coffee. We roast it fresh, ship it to you. We also got some cool swag and some coffee mugs and things like that. If you so desire, every little bit helps. We hope these conversations help you as much as they help us. And yeah, you got anything else on your mind there, man?
Nah, man, I'm good.
Right on, right on. With that, we will say
Adieu.